Imagine putting your hard-earned money into, well, what looks like a really promising venture, only to discover the foundations, they were never actually there. Today, we're doing a deep dive into a case that's left thousands of investors facing a pretty grim reality. We're talking about the 79th Group. It was a network of companies, promised luxury living developments, but according to the official reports we've got, it delivered, well, a financial house of cards. Our sources for this are the recent insolvency documents, the administrator proposals. These lay bare the confirmed truth. No more guessing.
Yeah, and what's really fascinating but also quite sobering here is how these documents move us completely beyond speculation. We've got concrete numbers now, confirmed facts about what actually went wrong. So our mission today is really to unpack these findings, clarify the confirmed situation for the investors out there, and explore this complex, tangled web of financial activity that's left so many people out of pocket.
Okay, so what does all this mean? For anyone trying to understand investment, accountability, and maybe how to spot these huge red flags, let's unpack the main points. The first one, and it's the toughest pill to swallow, confirmed in these documents. For investors who put money into those loan notes from the 79th Group, most of that investment is likely gone, just lost. That's a staggering thing to hear confirmed.
It really is. And it's so important to stress, this isn't just our opinion, it's not a guess. This grim truth comes directly from official insolvency documents. Specifically, the administrator proposals for one company, 79th Luxury Living 6 Limited. These were released by Grant Thornton, the administrators, on June 10, 2025. And they line up with updates from other failed 79th companies, too. These are the legal authoritative reports.
And the scale, just for that one company, 79th Luxury Living 6. Such shocking. Between 50 and 70 million pounds, raised from over 1,400 individual investors. When you see numbers like that, 50 to 70 million, what's the most kind of critical finding in these documents about where that money actually went or didn't go?
Yeah, the absolute killer finding, the one that just jumps off the page, is that this company, Luxury Living 6, had no development assets. Zero. So when people heard about Loch Ness or Penrose or any of the advertised properties, this specific company owned none of it. It had no real assets at all. The documents confirm it was basically a fundraising shell, just a structure set up to collect money from investors and then, move it around the wider group, not to actually build anything.
Right. So tens of millions poured in and now almost nothing left in that company. The documents suggest the funds seem to have been spent on, commissions? Operating costs for the group and maybe funneled off to other companies in the network or even outside it.
Exactly. Commissions, running costs, and potentially moved to other companies, maybe even unrelated schemes. And the administrators, they've only just started the asset tracing process. That's incredibly complex, trying to follow the money. It could take years, honestly, and there's absolutely no guarantee they'll recover much, if anything.
It really sounds like a setup that was just destined to collapse, doesn't it?
Well, what a lot of people probably suspected is now officially confirmed. These companies, they weren't real businesses with actual assets or a way to make money sustainably. They simply couldn't generate income to pay back investors properly. And look, this isn't just about the 79th Group. Understanding this shell company thing is vital. It's a common feature of schemes built on hype, not reality. You always need to ask, where's the actual value coming from? Is it real assets or just more investor money?
And a huge part of that deception, the documents are really blunt about this, is they used new investor money, your money, if you invested to pay off older obligations. The reports literally say this wasn't a business, it was a collapse waiting to happen. That's a massive red flag, surely.
Oh, absolutely. That's the textbook definition, really, of a Ponzi scheme structure. Maybe not legally defined as such yet, but the mechanism. It's a core red flag because the whole thing can only keep going as long as new money comes in. It can never actually pay everyone back from legitimate profits because there aren't enough. And just to be crystal clear, despite all the glossy brochures and advertising, 79th Luxury Living 6 Limited didn't own any developments, not, as the reports say, a single brick at Loch Ness or a square meter at Penrose. Those assets, if they even exist in the way they were described, were held by totally different companies outside the 79th structure, although, yes, still controlled by people close to the Websters.
No. If they didn't own the developments and the company was just a fundraising shell, what did people actually invest in? The documents are pretty stark on this. They say investors bought into a vision, a pitch, a story with no real foundation. And this vision, it wasn't an accident. It was crafted. And the documents point fingers. They name the family involved.
That's right. David, Jake, and Curtis Webster. Their names appear frequently in these reports as the people behind the 79th Group. And here's another really significant finding. The Websters refused, according to the reports, to provide the legally required statements of affairs for Luxury Living 6 and other 79th companies they ran. This is basic legal stuff when a company goes under. It's described as a refusal to comply.
And the impact of that refusal, it's huge, right? The administrators are, operating in the dark, essentially. They're flying blind.
Pretty much. They don't have the basic information from the directors about where the money went, what assets might possibly be left, who controls what accounts. It makes their job incredibly difficult.
So what happens then when directors don't cooperate like this?
Well, because of this lack of cooperation and just the sheer scale of the collapse, there are now formal investigations underway into the Websters' conduct as directors. This could lead down several paths. Director disqualifications, banning them from running companies, civil claims, trying to claw back money personally, and potentially, depending on what the investigation uncovers, even criminal charges. It's very serious.
Okay, so the money didn't go into the advertised developments. Where did it go?
That's the multi-million-pound question, isn't it? The reports confirm investor money did not go into those luxury projects.
Instead, the documents describe this really complicated journey. Money collected into a central pot, a treasury account for the 79th Group. Then, bang, quickly distributed through this maze of companies. UK, offshore. You mentioned places like Gibraltar, Switzerland, Dubai, Canada, the US, even Guinea.
Exactly, a complex network. And the implication, which the reports clearly state, is that this kind of setup appears designed to make the money hard to track. It obscures the trail. Administrators think the money was mostly used for the group's running costs, paying those, often very high, commissions to the introducers who brought investors in, and possibly, diverted to other unrelated schemes.
And that complexity just makes everything harder and more expensive, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Tracing money through multiple jurisdictions, especially offshore, it requires specialist forensic accountants, international legal teams. It all adds significant cost. And every pound spent on those costs is a pound that cannot be returned to investors. It massively reduces the chances of any meaningful recovery.
So let's talk about the investors then. For the thousands caught up in this, what's the immediate situation? It sounds pretty bleak.
It is bleak, unfortunately. The bottom line right now, there are no funds available to be paid out from 79th Luxury Living 6. Zero. So thousands of people are left holding these loan note certificates, basically an IOU from the company, with no clear path to getting their capital back.
And even if, down the line, some assets are found or some money is recovered, it's going to take years and likely be pennies on the pound.
That's the reality spelled out in the documents. Years. And likely very little returned because of all those costs we just talked about. The language in the reports is unusually strong for these kinds of documents. They call it a betrayal. They describe the whole thing as building a financial house of cards.
And there's a real wake-up call in there about the administration process itself. It says, quote, "It will not save you." What exactly does that mean for investors relying on the administrators?
It's about managing expectations. In any insolvency, there's a strict pecking order, a payment hierarchy. Think of it like a queue for any money recovered, first in line. Always the administrators themselves and their lawyers. Their fees get paid first. Then come secured creditors, maybe a bank with a charge over a specific asset, although there seem to be few, if any, relevant here. And only right at the very back of the queue, if there's anything left after all those costs, are the unsecured creditors. That includes most, probably all, of these loan note investors. So the reports are warning. Don't expect early payouts or quick resolutions. Expect long delays, maybe occasional brief updates, and rising professional fees eating away at any potential pot. Honestly, even secured investors often get little back in these situations. For unsecured investors, the chances are very, very low.
Okay, but the documents mention not everyone is just passively waiting for the administration outcome. There's a firm, Insolvency and Law, pursuing a different route, a separate civil recovery strategy.
That's right. Our sources detailed their approach. It's separate from the administration. They're looking at things like legal claims against potentially negligent advisors or trustees who might have recommended or facilitated these investments. They're also exploring action against the professional indemnity insurers, the insurance policies that cover professionals if they make mistakes. And importantly, they're pursuing group litigation. That's like a class action where investors band together. It lowers the legal costs for each individual and increases the pressure on potential defendants.
And they seem to be stressing urgency, something about time running out.
Yes, the source material highlights that strongly. quote, "Time matters. Civil claims have deadlines. Every week that passes makes recovery harder. Civil claims aren't open-ended. There are time limits, statutes of limitation."
So what's their core message to investors right now?
It's very direct. Again, quoting from the source. Do not delay. Do not be misled by vague updates from the administration. Do not assume the administrators will recover money that no longer exists.
Okay. And if people listening want to find out more about that specific civil recovery approach, the contact details mentioned are email investigations@insolvencyandlaw.co.uk, phone 020-7504-1300, or their website, insolvencyandlaw.co.uk.
Stepping back, looking at the bigger picture, this whole case, the 79th Group, it's just such a stark reminder, isn't it, about how complex modern investments can be and how critical it is to really, truly understand what you are putting your money into. It shows the power of a good story, even if it's not backed by reality.
Absolutely. And what this deep dive really hammers home is how that compelling vision, that slick pitch, can completely mask a fundamental lack of substance. And that leads directly to what the reports call a betrayal affecting thousands of ordinary people's lives. It's genuinely chilling when you see it laid out like this.
Which brings us to a really important question, I think, for you listening. In today's financial world, it's often so opaque, isn't it? Information overload, but maybe not much clarity. So what new strategies, what critical questions can we all start asking to get better at telling the difference between a genuine, robust opportunity and just a carefully constructed house of cards?
A really crucial question to think about as you navigate the world around you.